Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in our Ivanti webinar series, Hyperautomation in IT Support and Cybersecurity. My name is Gareth Boyle, the Senior Marketing Executive for Ivanti here at Fusion5, and I'm joined today by General Manager for ESM, Edward Zarzor, Business Development Manager, Chandy Shiv, and Area Vice President for Ivanti, Penelope Feros. Before I hand over to our first speaker, just a couple of quick bits of housekeeping. The first half of today's session will be presented by the speakers I've just introduced, followed by a short Q&A session. If you do have any questions during the presentation, you can ask them at any time via the top right-hand corner of your browser or Teams application, and we'll address it during the Q&A. We'll also share a copy of today's recording with those in attendance and those who couldn't join us after the session today. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Chandy Shiv. Chandy.
Hello and welcome to Fusion5 and Ivanti IT seminar. I'm really very thankful for the opportunity and thank you all for joining for today's session. I've just recently joined Fusion5 Enterprise Service Management Center of Excellence and proudly representing Ivanti for Australia and New Zealand customers. Just to set the scene, the main agenda will be on discussing the main points of understanding service management in COVID era and learn how we are all placed in this brand new world we are living in. As such, today we will be discussing how Fusion5 and Ivanti Neurons helps us to improve or tackle our service delivery methodologies for the everywhere workplace. We will also discuss how Fusion5 and Ivanti helps customers identify the pre-incident automation and the post-incident automation, mainly to combat the modern security threat that we possess. At the last of our presentation, we'll summarize the insights on how everything connects to the digital transformation of IT. Next slide, please. We all know that the world has changed, so did IT service management. We came from years of relative order where change was within our control, but that control is now lost. And to that, we are now venturing into vital, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world. I'm sure you will all agree to which COVID-19 has accelerated digital transformation in the way we could have not anticipated. Each organization is evolving through COVID, and now to be able to survive, companies are combining practices and frameworks, building their own specific and custom solutions. In the past, large accreditation bodies and institutions would dictate how market would operate, but that's in the past. Today, we will also discuss an overview on Fusion5 services in Ivanti IT automation, supporting your employees and their work assets. The best possible way is more important than ever. Protecting the everywhere workplace using Ivanti unified endpoint management solutions, providing your IT and end users better experience on platform that manages and secures various devices from on-premises to the edge. Well, in today's world, corporate IT and non-IT are connected to internet. There are unimaginable complexity due to the explosive growth of endpoints and IoT devices that are exposed. Fusion5 Enterprise Service Management emphasizes on the best ITL4 practices, which helps us to identify how we service, protect, and manage them holistically is vital to your success. By developing Ivanti endpoint solutions and software, Fusion5 ESM has confidence knowing that your businesses are protected with continuous threat management and secure access across every user, device, applications, and network, anywhere, anytime, security for the everywhere workplace. Zero trust and zero password. We know that the threats are growing in volume and sophistication. Zero trust is the right solution for the everywhere workplace. With Fusion5 services and Ivanti together, we could help to deploy and maintain the highest level of security across your infrastructure from cloud to the edge, identifying and heading off threats before that even they can disturb service. We make this happen with comprehensive patch management and zero trust security solutions that leave zero room for compromise. Hyperautomation will help you complete your digital transformation. Doing nothing will have a negative impact on fiscal accountability, employee experience, productivity, and security posture that's on a greater risk. We help you complete your digital transformation through continuous service delivery for your employees and contractors. With that note, I would like to hand over the floor to our guest speaker, Penelope Feros, Executive Vice President for Ivanti.
Thanks so much, Chandy, and thanks again for welcoming me to your Fusion5 webinar and a chance to speak to all the customers that you have that are keen on service management. So as Chandy alluded to, my role at Ivanti is really to lead the region and around service management and employee experience, which I'm very, very passionate about and have been worked in the area for a long time now. So based on the introduction that Chandy's just walked through, I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a right angle to that and sort of talk about what Ivanti is doing specifically around service delivery. We have this great hyperautomation everywhere workplace message, but what does that actually mean for service delivery? Well, the way that Ivanti kind of looks at it is that there's a few things that on a base level are critical to service delivery and service management. Absolutely, you need a great IT service management solution that Ivanti has had for a long time now to be able to do, your standard service management activities, incident management, problem management, CMDB, change management, service level agreements, whatever that is. And that solution needs to be best practice, fit for purpose, and be able to be highly configurable to fit your organisation's changing requirements. Also need a great IT operations management suite to be able to discover your environment, both internal and external and cloud or whatever that is, provide really great dependency mapping to be able to kind of manage your change and seem to be in an ongoing manner. The days of doing this in a spreadsheet or just kind of floundering and not having a great seem to be and numbered. Your network and your environment is so diverse now that you absolutely need a handle on it. Finally, you need an enterprise service management portal. And this is something that most organisations have to a certain extent now to enable customers to self-service, look at knowledge bank, request things from the portal, whatever it is. And many organisations think this is enough, and they think that the enterprise service management portal is the face of IT to the business, if you've heard that term before. But interestingly enough, if you do talk to many people out in the business that you support, or in fact anyone at a barbecue or a bar, if you want to have that conversation there, and you ask them, what's IT like in your organisation? Typically, almost without fail, people will say, oh, our IT is rubbish, or they might use a harsher term. And if you delve in that a little bit further and ask them, well, that's okay. Have you ever had to talk to IT, or do you have a self-service portal? Most people will go, well, yeah, we've got a self-service portal. Like, have you ever had to use it? And I'm like, well, yes, I've had to use it a couple of times, I guess. I had to request a new laptop and I had to get access to a new application. And, if you delve a bit further, they'll typically say that that experience was okay. They managed to find what they were looking for eventually. They requested it and the service got fulfilled. So then you ask, okay, well, if that experience was okay or satisfactory, how can you tell me that you think that IT is rubbish? And the reason is that an enterprise service portal is not the face of IT to the business. That is a website that people go to maybe 3 times in 5 years. The face of IT to the business is their devices. That is how they interact with IT, be it their laptop, be it their desktop, be it their phones, be it their tablets, whatever that is. And if their laptop takes 2 hours to log into in the morning, or they can't find everything they need on their phone, or they're on a different machine and they can't log on to all of the applications that they need, they will tell you that IT is rubbish, because that is the face of IT to the business. And that is really the problem that Ivanti recognises and tries to solve with their everywhere workplace message. And if you take that analogy a little bit further, earlier in this year, I was, before lockdown happened again, I was lucky enough to have a meeting with quite a major government department in Canberra. And one of the things that came about from that meeting was that a year or so ago, they rolled out to their employee base 5,000 Microsoft Surface devices. And it just so happened at the same time they rolled out a completely new SOE to that environment. But what they didn't know is the combination of those Surface devices and that new SOE caused all of those laptops to overheat and have to reboot, often daily, sometimes more than daily, and often taking 10 to 15 minutes for the machine to cool down enough to reboot. And when they asked me, how many times over a 3-month period did I think that would have been reported to the service desk? And I had to think about it, have a think about it now yourselves. And I came up with about 100 times, but I was way, way off. The answer was that not a single person of those 5,000 people that had that Surface device reported that issue to the service desk once in a 3-month period. The only reason they found out about it in the end was because the CIO got into the lift with the CEO and got an absolute, strong talking to about how rubbish their IT systems were. And this is indicative of most organisations, that the face of IT to the business is a device, and that needs to be looked at just as much as everything else. So Ivanti solves this with their Neurons solution. And what we're really trying to elevate it to is this employee experience, which is kind of ambient. It gets solved in the background. It is personalised to someone's devices or what they're doing. It is contextual, and it anticipates what people need on their devices without them having to physically log on and log a ticket. And the way that Ivanti does this is by providing very key services around that person's experience to discover everything in the network. You can't do anything and help anyone if you don't even know that a device is out there. So you need to discover everything that you have in your environment. You need to manage it effectively, be it laptops, hospital devices, phones, whatever that is. You need to be able to secure all of those devices. That is essential in today's world. And you need to be able to service them. And if you can do that well, then you are ahead of the game in offering true service management for the modern workplace and employee experience. So that sounds good in theory, but how does Ivanti actually go about doing this? Well, we like to think about it and separate it into pre-ticket automation and post-ticket automation. So if we think for a minute about pre-ticket automation, this is automation or hyper-automation that happens before anyone even thinks to log a ticket in a self-service portal or call the service desk. And you think, well, so what? What is the point of doing this? It sounds good in theory. I might have slightly happier staff, but what does it actually mean for my organisation? Well, it means a bunch of things. It means that you have significantly higher employee productivity. You don't have people wandering around trying to solve their own things, talking to their mates at work or their colleagues, or delving through the internet trying to solve their own issues. You have continual service without it breaking up, and you really optimize your asset management and compliance management. And more importantly, you are offering that true employee experience. There was a LinkedIn article that I read just last week saying that some ungodly number of people actually resign from their workplace today within the first week or month, and typically it's because they've had a bad onboarding experience. Now, that can be a bunch of things, but one of the key things is because they don't have a machine day one and they can't get access to everything they do day one, and I think that's the way it's going to be going forward. So it is critical to really solve this in today's modern workforce. So how do we do this? Well, the way Ivanti has promoted this is with their pre-ticket self-healing Neurons automation bots. And these are things that once you discover everyone's devices, you can then put a bot or bots on those machines to manage how they work ongoing. They can identify a whole bunch of different, monitor a whole bunch of different things that happen on those machines, be they low disk space, blue screens, network drives not connecting properly, whatever it is, you can identify them and then solve them in the background on that person's machine without them even knowing. And the way that Ivanti kind of promotes this is by saying we will send out every quarter new bots to manage what you're doing on your environment, as well as giving you, the organisation, the ability to build your own bots. So why is that important? Well, another example that happened recently with a customer we're working on in Sydney is that earlier in the year they identified that there was a security risk with the Microsoft print spoolers. And so what they did is they went around the whole organisation and just switched off everyone's, disabled everyone's print spooler. So that's fine. From an IT perspective, great. You've completely killed any security threat that was out there because of that print spooler issue. The issue is that when anyone in that workplace, working from home as they did in lockdown, tried to print anything, they discovered that they couldn't. And so people spent hours trying to solve this themselves. They did what you normally do. They rebooted the printer, checked the ink, the paper, rebooted their desktop, crawled under the desk trying to connect all the cables, went on the internet trying to solve their own problem, until eventually, if they had to, they finally logged a ticket with the service desk. The service desk probably came back and went, oh yeah, there's a knowledge article on that. We've disabled the print spooler because there's a security flaw. So again, from an IT perspective, the ticket was closed on first contact. Great. But from an employee experience perspective, it was a horrific experience. They didn't know what had happened. They spent hours trying to diagnose it themselves, only to be told that, oh yeah, it was something that we did a while ago that you should have known about. And you think how much more powerful that would have been if a Teams message or whatever other channel that they had popped up on the machine saying, hey, your print spooler has been disabled. Would you like us to send you more information about why? We'll just notify you when it's back on and you can print again. Amazing and easy employee experience for the modern work. So I wanted to hand over quickly to Ed Zazor, who most of you know, to walk through another example that they had with one of their Victorian customers.
Thank you, Penelope. And yeah, look, this customer would have loved to be with us today, but I'm not going to name names or steal their thunder, because they will join us in a future webinar once all the bots are out there. But yeah, the first bot that's going through UAT right now is actually very specific to one of the examples that Penelope brought up, which is the blue screen of death. Very similar experience. Most of us never report that to IT. We know we just have to hard reboot and hopefully it comes back up and things like that. And they found several machines have had, I think the figure was 18 crashes in 1 month, and nobody reported them. And obviously that adds to the sentiment, the negative sentiment towards IT. So the bottom line here is, from a Neuron's perspective and having those sensors out on the assets, this customer has 10,000 assets, nurses, doctors running around with all sorts of technology. At least IT has a better chance knowing where those assets are, but now they're trying to take it one step further and do proactive problem management and shifting left. So more to come on that, but that's definitely a real life example we wanted to share with you today.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, so if that's pre-ticket automation, what does post-ticket automation look like? Well, one of the great things that we've introduced to the product recently is an introduction of machine learning. And we've taken quite a practical approach to how we've implemented machine learning to solve the real problem that I always see of essentially reporting within a service management tool, that the reports that people pull out are typically not what they want. It's not what their CIO wants to see, and typically they're very, very inaccurate. And the reason why they are typically inaccurate is because everyone on the service desk logs the same ticket and classifies it in a completely different way to everyone else. Worse still, when you push something out in the customer portal, customers can trawl through all of your classification, your service catalog, everything you've done beautifully on a service portal, yet still magically find the complete opposite ticket classification to the one they should and log something anyway. And so as a result, if all the tickets that you have are classified completely differently to each other, nothing typically in a service management tool hangs together and works. Your reporting's inaccurate. Your automation processes don't kick off properly. If you've got integrations, they don't hang together. Your workflows, your approvals, your SLAs don't trigger right if they're different based on your classification. A whole bunch of different stuff doesn't work based on taxonomy. So imagine if you could take that issue away and say, we don't even care about that. We will classify it automatically based on the description that you put in about the ticket, and then everything else within the solution just works. And then you can take it further to say, perhaps you don't even need a self-service portal. We can pop up a web chat or a Microsoft Teams interface to connect to the service desk, and all you need to be able to put in is a description of your issue, and then that ticket is logged, it's auto-classified automatically, and everything else in the background just works. And then if you can do that, then you can trigger a whole bunch of these bots on the background automatically. So if you put in something to say your password doesn't work, it needs to be reset, you need access to a certain application, you need to install a print driver for your home device, and you have that, it classifies correctly, then you can trigger bots proactively on the service desk to be able to make those changes for you. So these are not things that you want run ambiently in the background, but rather that you want triggered from within the service desk after you classify a ticket. And this can be done automatically or by a service desk technician. Once they actually get the ticket, they can provide a bit more detail and have ambiently and proactively pop up knowledge articles and proactive bots that they can trigger directly with the user as they're speaking to them or as they get a ticket in, without it having to go to second, third level support or whatever other kind of people that you need around the environment to trigger things on their computer. And finally, and this is one of the things that I really like about what we're doing, is the ability to provide even better reporting. One of the best things that came out for organisations recently is an NPS score, which is, a single number for their external customers to understand how they're going in the marketplace and what their customers think about them. So if you can have an NPS score for external customers, you absolutely should be able to have an employee experience score for your internal employees, a single number that tells you how your customers are going, what their experience is within IT, and if it's improving or not improving over time. And if you can pinpoint that to a specific department, a group of people, a location, a geography, whatever that is, and that employee experience index can be made up of their devices, how they're running, because you do monitor them and you know exactly how they're going, your security position on how secure all of those devices are going, because what's the point of having great speed on your computer if it's completely vulnerable, and their service experience. How are they managing the user surveys, SLAs, whatever that is. And if you combine all those together, you can collate it into a single number which is known and understood within the entire organisation without having to explain what the point of all your reporting is. And even better, it is industry-wide. So you can compare with all of your other peers and benchmark how you're going as an organisation and how you can improve it over time. So that's a little bit of an overview on Ivanti's neurons for service management and self-healing capability and what we're offering to the marketplace and where we're going. And so we have walked through a number of customer stories and what we're doing, but the other really great thing that we've got is it's not just Ivanti that thinks this is a wonderful thing, it's really being recognised as visionary in the marketplace with analysts as well. Not only has Ivanti been recognised again as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for service management, but combining this, we're also a visionary in the UEM space as well for unified endpoint management. And Ivanti is the only vendor in the marketplace that's really combining that service management, endpoint management game together to drive employee experience in what employees are really looking for in the marketplace. So on that note, I want to hand back to the Fusion5 team to see if there's any questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks heaps for that, Penelope. We've got a couple of questions that have come through. I might pick on you first, if that's okay, seeing you're on screen. So, first one, what types of devices does the Neuron platform manage?
Yeah, thanks. So that's one of the great things about what Ivanti is doing. One of the themes that we've put forward is that you can't manage something if you can't discover it. And so we've put a lot of effort in being able to discover essentially everything in your environment. So not just laptops, desktops, and those sorts of things, but mobile phones and managing those endpoints, which a lot of kind of organisations sort of forget to secure altogether, as well as everything else in your environment as well. And it's quite tailored to industry. So if you think about a healthcare organisation, you know, you can have security flaws and things coming through respiratory devices and all sorts of things within your organisation. So we've put a lot of effort to go, let's discover every single thing that's on the internet in your environment and secure them and manage them to be able to kind of provide a really great solution to most organisations. So the answer is essentially everything.
Thanks, Penelope. And this might sort of flow on for it. Can you use neurons outside of IT as well?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so the answer is absolutely. And we have kind of some interesting use cases that are coming about on that at the moment. And one of them that I was working on a customer about last week is providing this neurons sort of self-healing automation from an HR perspective for new starters. So as that person starts, they get little pop-up surveys through Teams in every day for the first 2 weeks of their onboarding experience, is saying, popping up and going like, have you got access to all the things that you need? Yes. How was it? Yes. Did you get it enough? Do you have any questions? You know, end. The next day they pop up other HR sort of questions for their onboarding experience. So it's really kind of triggered, tailored, and done daily for the first 2 weeks of their environment to offer a really great service. And you can do that with facilities or legal or whatever else you're doing as well. But it's definitely not tailored only towards IT.
Perfect. Thanks, Penelope. I've just got one from Michael here. So how long would it take a standard customer to get their SM environment fully automated?
Maybe I'll hand over to Ed. Yeah, because you're the one that does
it. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gareth. Yeah, the short answer is comparatively low time frame compared to a lot of other technologies, and that's one of the main reasons why Fusion5 is strategically partnered with Ivanti. It's a low code environment, it's click not code, and we've got some really seasoned consultants that can like neurons itself, it can be up and running in 5 days. So very powerful stuff there from an ROI and TCO perspective. But yeah, start a chat with us, Michael, and we're happy to take you through it.
Thanks, Ed. And just flowing on from that, what are the real advantages of using Fusion5 Ivanti SM platform there?
Sure, I'll take that one as well. It's to the point that Penelope made at the end there. You don't find any, service management vendors, Gartner recognized, that are actually also very strong in UEM, right? And that's got to be a key thing to notice now that we're in the COVID era. Service management probably boosted up a couple of notches when everybody has to work from home. Organizations were already struggling to support and make sure the employee experience is up there. And then COVID happened, and not only are you supposed to service those employees, but you're somehow supposed to manage the devices that they use, right? So the short answer there is the combination of UEM and service management is really the differentiator here.
Thanks, heaps, Ed. And I've just got one final question from Jose here. So what has been, I guess, the general customer feedback that you've been getting in particular, Ed, from people using the Fusion5 platform powered by Ivanti there? Really positive.
I mean, for neurons, I mean, at the end of the day, let's be fair, neurons has only been in the market 1.5 years, but for something that to hit the ground running, we've got a lot of customers using it, and they're working closely with us and Ivanti themselves to actually make sure continuous improvement goes into the platform, because it's not an easy feat to be able to just manage absolutely any type of device. But in my opinion, it's been extremely positive.
Nice one, Ed. And I think that brings us to 11:30 there. So unless there's any more questions coming through, I'll just double check. No, I think we can wrap up there. Hey, so I just wanted to say a special thanks to our presenters, Chandy, Penelope, and Ed there. I know you all put in a lot of work the past couple of weeks putting this presentation together, and it shows, so thank you very much. As I mentioned up top there, I'll send a copy of the recording for those in attendance today and those who couldn't make it shortly. But if you do have any immediate burning questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of our speakers today or directly to Chandy, whose email address you can see on the screen. Other than that, I wish you all a great rest of your day, and thank you again for joining us. Take care, everyone.